Hi, I'm Walt, and this is Delta Astrophotography. And in the spirit of Halloween, we're gonna photograph a ghost in outer space. Now, the Ghost Nebula is notoriously difficult, and I've found that out for sure in the past few weeks. So this is not really going to be a beginner's video, but I still encourage everyone to watch along anyway because I learned a lot. So join us in today's episode of... Okay, so before we get started, I just want to go ahead and get this out of the way. I messed up big time right at the beginning. I spent 3 whole days photographing what I thought was the Ghost Nebula, and it turned out to be something completely different. I was very shocked when I started stretching my data and I did not recognize what I saw at all. So basically what happened is it was time for me to slew to the target, and at the time I did not know the catalog number for the Ghost Nebula. Now I know it's Sharpless 136 or SH2-136, but at the time I didn't know that, so I just quickly Googled the Ghost Nebula and looked for the very first catalog number I saw. I didn't even bother reading the results. I just skimmed till I saw a catalog number, typed that into the ASI Air, hit go to, and started photographing. With these dim reflection nebulae, you don't really actually see anything in your test shots, so I was just hoping I was doing the right thing. And I was wrong. I think what the Google results actually said was something along the lines of, the Ghost Nebula lies near NGC blah 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 blah. And so I should have been paying more attention. Lesson learned, but hey, now I think you'll probably get 2 photos at the end of this video. The Ghost Nebula is a reflection nebula. That means it's a bunch of dust being lit up by the surrounding stars. And unfortunately, that also means you can't really use narrowband filters, making it very difficult to photograph from a city or underneath the moon. So you're gonna have to probably go out to a dark spot or photograph when the moon's not out, or both. And if for some reason you absolutely just cannot get out of the city and you still wanna try it, try using a low ISO or low gain and just try to get as much exposure time as possible. Yeah, shorter exposures, low gain, but just shoot forever, like for days. I don't know. I'm out in the country, so we're gonna see what happens. So what kind of lens or telescope do we need to shoot the Ghost Nebula? Let's go ahead and jump into Stellarium and find out. All right, here we are in Stellarium. Let's go ahead and fast forward to nighttime. There we go. Let's go to the search bar over here, search window, and let's type in the catalog number, the actual correct catalog number, and that's SH2-136 or Sharpless 136. And there we go. Now, I only have 2 telescopes. I have a Radian 61 at 275 millimeters, and I have a Celestron C11 with a reducer, making it about 1,690 millimeters. So let's come up here to the top. Let's click this camera sensor icon. Let's go to the wrench right here and make sure we go to telescopes. And I've typed in my Radian 61. I've created my own custom telescope in here. Told it was 274 millimeters, diameter 61 millimeters. Okay, so go to sensors. I'm using a Canon T5i, which is a crop sensor camera. Let's just make sure we're using an EOS APS-C sensor. That'll be close enough to my Canon T5i or 700D. Close out of this. And as we can see, we can't even see the Ghost Nebula in the frame at all at 274 millimeters. It's way, way out there. All right, so let's go back up to the wrench icon here. Let's click telescopes and find a Celestron C11. There we go. And let's go to lenses and add the f6.3 reducer. Looks like it's still stuck on the Radian 61 telescope. So let's try that again. Go to telescopes, double click C11. All right. Now we still got the f6.3 reducer, and now it's changed to Celestron C11. Let's close this. There we go. So, as you can see, at 1,690 millimeters, it actually looks pretty nice in the frame. So you're gonna need a pretty big telescope to capture the Ghost Nebula. Oh boy. Ooh, wind, just chill out for just a second. Come on, wind. Good God, this wind is strong.
Got it. Transferring to the shed now.
This is the Celestron C11. It's not the Edge HD, it's just the regular C11. It's probably almost 20 years old. I did not buy it, it was given to me, and it has been a challenge to use. I actually took it off an old Nexstar GPS 11 fork mount, and then added this orange dovetail so I could mount it to my EQ6R Pro. This is the old fork mount I took it off of. This was an Alt-Az mount, and that's not good for astrophotography. I need a German equatorial mount or something like that. The native focal length of this beast is 2,800 millimeters, but I put on a corrector reducer that knocked it down to 1,690 with a focal ratio of about f6.3. That's a lot better for astrophotography. The scope itself, without the dovetail, weighs about 27 pounds, and the max payload capacity of this EQ6R Pro mount is about 44 pounds, but they say you're only supposed to go up to half of that, so we're definitely pushing that here. And we haven't even talked about the added weight of the dovetail and the guide scope, the camera, and any other accessories that I might put on top. So it's gonna be extremely, extremely important that I get balance just right on this telescope and polar alignment as well. As you can see here, I'm using 3 11-pound counterweights. It's 33 pounds of counterweight. This whole setup is heavy. And I think 33 pounds is just enough to balance this entire rig. I'm gonna go ahead and show you what it's like to balance this. Thank goodness this telescope comes with this little metal handle right here. I absolutely love this feature. So I'm gonna loosen my right ascension or RA clutch. Let it go down. You can see it is definitely telescope heavy. It wants to be upside down right now. So let's fix that. Just gonna hold the telescope over here so it doesn't fall. So loosen my first counterweight. Bring it all the way down the edge there. Still not enough. Second counterweight. Bring that all the way down. There we go. Still not enough. Still wanting to fall this way. Loosen the third counterweight. I think we about got it now. Yeah, this is about it. Great, but we're not done because now we have to balance in declination. So I'm gonna loosen my declination clutch. Actually, this looks pretty good. I can't believe it. Normally it takes me several tries, but I'm not touching it. It's not following this way or this way. So this is a pretty nicely balanced setup. If for some reason it was falling backwards like this, I would just loosen the telescope right here, after I tightened everything back down, of course, and then push it up forwards in the dovetail saddle just a little bit, but I'm glad I don't have to do that. Speaking of balance, as you can see, I've got my guide scope and guide camera over here mounted to the finder shoe, and it's kind of on the left side of the back end of the telescope. Now, that kind of added a little extra weight just to the left-hand side, and it was causing balance issues too. So to equal that out, I took my Pegasus power box and my ASI Air, and I mounted them to the top right side of the back of the telescope with a little bit of Velcro and some zip ties. The Pegasus power box, it pretty much powers everything on my entire setup, from the mount to the camera, the ASI Air, all that good stuff. And it just needs one power source like a battery or a wall outlet. For the camera, I'm using an old Canon T5i or 700D. It is connected to the rear of the telescope with this piece right here. This is the Celestron f6.3 reducer corrector. This is what brings it down from 2,800 millimeters to 1,690, and kind of helps flatten things out and makes the stars a little more round and normal looking. That goes into the T adapter here. This is a T adapter with M42 threads. You might not be able to see it very well here, but on the camera, right here, yeah, it's not enough light, let's see. Right there. That is an M42 T-ring adapter. That connects to this T adapter right here. And that's how I pretty much use this massive telescope as a camera lens. The ASI Air, what I call the little red box thing, is what I plug all my equipment into, from my mount to my camera to my auto guider. Everything gets plugged into that, and then I can wirelessly control the entire rig using just my tablet. Lately, I've also been using the hand controller to also control the mount for small minor adjustments. This is really important when I'm trying to collimate the telescope, because every time I turn one of the collimation screws or knobs, the star kind of moves out of frame and I have to reframe it. It's just easier to have the hand controller in my hand while I'm loosening and tightening these knobs up here. And speaking of collimation and screws and knobs, let me show you what else I did recently. So this telescope has two mirrors. This one right here is my secondary mirror. And way back in the back down there, that's your primary mirror back there. These two mirrors have to be properly aligned, otherwise things are going to start looking distorted and funky looking. And the way you align them is that you adjust these right here. Now normally when you first get this telescope, these are actually screws. Mine, they were Phillips screws. But the idea of me taking a Phillips screwdriver to the front of this telescope at night, so close to this glass corrector plate right here, that just horrified me. And so I replaced them with Bob's knobs. They're very cheap, very affordable. You just take one screw out, put a knob in, take another one out, put a knob in, take another one out, and put a knob in. You don't want to take them all out at once, otherwise your secondary mirror will probably fall off, and yeah, that would not be good. Collimation is something new to me. I've just recently started trying to do it, and I'm going to try to cover it in this video, but I'm still not very good at it yet. So before we go out and shoot during this cool, crisp October evening, let's go ahead and make ourselves a October/Halloween themed snack to take out there with us. First, we'll need some pumpkin spice Cheerios. Next, we'll need a little pumpkin pie spice, some pumpkin spice latte beer, and a pumpkin. There we go. All right, cheers everybody. Happy Halloween. Not bad. It's 7:30 in the evening. It's very cloudy and it's fairly windy out here too. All that's supposed to clear up around 10:30, 11 o'clock. I thought about doing calibration frames when I'm just sitting out here killing time, but then I started thinking about it. I can't do darks because the temperature is going to drop significantly tonight. My dark frames would be 10 to 15 degrees cooler than my light frames, so we're not going to do that. And I can't really take my flat frames as well because I like to be in focus for those. And there's no stars out here to focus on. So instead, I've decided to probably just go downtown and get a drink and run to Ground Zero Blues Club and sit in with the band. And I'm back. It's about 11 o'clock and it's still about as cloudy as can be. There's not a single star up there. Every single weather and cloud app I have says it should be very clear right now. 0% cloud cover, and they're just wrong. So I'm just gonna go inside and relax, and hopefully the clouds go away. I mean, if it's 12:30 and I'm still not imaging yet, it's gonna be another night where I'm just going to go to bed. Well, that never ended up happening. It stayed cloudy for 3 solid days, but it finally did clear up and I got a chance to go outside and try again. And the temperature dropped down to the 40s and my entire telescope fogged up and the entire night was ruined. But it did clear up and I got a chance to try one more time. And I was able to take the camera back out there and film a little bit of what I was doing. Let's check out a little bit of my ASIR workflow, shall we? The ASIR Polar Assist has taken a test shot plate solved it, and in the top right, it's telling me my total error and the adjustments I need to make to get it as close to 0 as possible. To make the proper corrections, I have to use the azimuth bolts right here to make the mount move left and right, and the altitude crank right here to make sure it moves up and down so we can get things perfectly polar aligned. You can see in the top right, it's telling me if I need to move my mount up, down, left, or right. It's currently taking a new photo right now, and we're gonna see if I got any closer to 0. Yep, it's gone down a little. I just need to make a few more adjustments to my mount, hit the refresh button at the bottom, and keep doing it until these numbers up at the top are all as close to 0 as possible. After several tries, I think this is about as close as I could get, and I think below 30 arc seconds on both altitude and azimuth is pretty darn good. So now we're gonna go up to the top and tap on that telescope icon up there. Scroll down and click Go to Home Position, and the telescope will slew back to the home position. Now we'll go over here on the right where it says PA and change that to Preview, and we're back to our home screen. Click the search bar on our mount controller, and we're going to find the star Deneb, slew to that, and focus. I'll hit the search icon in the top right, either type Deneb or choose it from my recent searches. There it is. Just going to tap on Deneb and hit Go to, and we are slewing to Deneb. And there it is, right on the center of the tablet. Now I'm going to actually attempt to collimate my telescope. I'm going to zoom in using the 10 times digital zoom on my camera and actually purposely knock the star out of focus. We're going to do this until we see a black circle within a white circle, just like you see here. The goal is to get the black circle perfectly centered in the middle of the white circle. And as you can see, there's a problem a little bit on the bottom right. I don't think it's quite centered. I think the black circle is closer to the bottom right. There's some issues there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to stick it in front of the telescope and try to find the knob that's closest to the area where there's a problem and twist that knob. You see me, the heat coming off my hand causing all those ripply waves. There we go. I'm getting my finger close to the problem area and I'm going to adjust that screw. There we go. I've done too much of an adjustment. Looks like the black circle is now closer to the top right. I just made an adjustment and it went off screen. This is why I like to have the hand controller to recenter the star. And basically I did this over and over again for almost 20 minutes. And every time I got it almost perfect, I would make one more adjustment and ruin the whole thing. So this is a very frustrating process and it took me a long time. When you're done and you start to refocus, and the black dot stays in the center, you've done a good job. Now I'm going to take this batten-off mask and put it over the front of the telescope so I can get perfect focus. Once again, we're going to use the 10 times zoom and zoom in on the star, and now you see these diffraction spikes. It's like an X pattern with another line running through it. The goal is to get that center line perfectly centered in the middle of that X. So we just move our focuser until that center line is perfectly in the middle of that X. Once again, I almost always get it perfect and then make one final adjustment and mess it up. So I have to keep redoing it over and over. But this is a great way. I love focusing with the C11 because those diffraction spikes are so huge. It makes it very easy to focus. I think that's looking good. Gotta make sure I take this back off when I'm done. Let's go ahead and click on the auto guide icon. Tap here to go ahead and clear out any of our previous auto guiding calibrations. Tap the refresh button to start the guide camera. There we go, and we're going to tap the target button to start calibrating and auto guiding. So it's chosen a few stars to lock onto and start the guiding. This will take a few minutes. And when it's done, things turn green like that. We got to let it settle for just a minute, and you should see the guide graph come to life. A lot of people really obsess over this guide graph, and you really shouldn't because you'll end up repolar aligning and balancing all night. I think this looks like good enough guiding for me. The reason I'm calibrating my auto guiding that way towards Deneb instead of towards my target is because my target is in the north, back that way. And auto guiding seems to have a hard time locking on when you're facing north because the stars don't move very well. As a matter of fact, I continuously get an error if I try to calibrate back that way towards the north, saying the stars aren't moving very much. So I'm going to calibrate towards Deneb in the west, and then when that's done, I'm going to slew over to my target, and it will just pick up from there, and it'll be far more accurate. Now that we're auto guiding, let's go ahead and click on that search bar in the main menu again. And we're going to look for tonight's target, Sharpless 136. We can either type it in or look it through the search history. And here we are. I'm going to tap it and hit Go To. And our mount should slew to the Ghost Nebula. You can see on my screen right now what a 180-second test shot looks like. So let's go ahead and start our auto run. We're going to change from preview to auto run. Tap the little hamburger icon, and we need to clear out anything I've done in the past. Those are some old darks and bias that I was taking maybe a few nights ago. Let's get rid of those. Tap the plus icon. I'm going to choose light. My exposure time, I want 180 seconds. I'm going to try to get at least 100 of those photos. Hit OK. And over here on the bottom left, we're going to tell our mount to go to the home position when everything's done. Back out of there. Let's go ahead and hit the start button. Guiding looks pretty good. That's just confirming we're going to the home position when we're done. I'm going to hit confirm. And guys, we are officially collecting data on the Ghost Nebula. Whew, we made it through it. Finally. At around 4 o'clock in the morning, I wrapped up, I went outside and I took flat frames and then darks and bias. If you're not familiar with calibration frames, you should definitely look them up. They're very important, especially when shooting with that big C11. It really needs flat frames. I should probably get around to making a video about calibration frames soon. I was actually able to get one more night in of shooting, giving me almost a total of 8 hours of data on the Ghost Nebula. Guys, this has been one of the biggest challenges I've ever had, and I'm still not happy with the image, and it just took so long to get, and there were moments where I got so frustrated I almost quit. There was a moment where I was working on this, and then I watched a certain famous YouTuber's video where he showed his Ghost Nebula, and it just put mine to shame. Y'all, that really almost made me quit. But in the end, this is all about fun. It's not about competing with people, being better with people. It's just about getting out there and doing what you love. Also, this person has like the newest cameras, the newest telescopes. I'm still using this like 10-plus-year-old entry-level DSLR and a 20-year-old telescope. I don't expect to ever actually get results that good with this stuff. So let's actually jump into the computer and let me show you what the results look like. Okay, so what you're looking at is on the left is the Ghost Nebula, and on the right is the Iris Nebula, which is what I photographed first by accident. These have been cropped, color calibrated, and auto-stretched. It's not an actual stretch. No noise reduction or anything like that yet. One of the first things I'd like to look at is over here at the Iris Nebula. This is before I started collimating my telescope every night. We kind of zoom in. Stars are looking pretty round here in the middle. That one might have a little bit of a halo around it, but for the most part they're round. Let's go down here. Now we start to see some pretty severe problems with our stars. That can usually be expected in the corners of just about any telescope that's not designed specifically for astrophotography. This is looking pretty gnarly. Now let's look at the Ghost Nebula. And this is after I started collimating every night. Stars are pretty round in the center. Come down here. And there are a few artifacts here, but it's nowhere near as wonky looking as these stars. Collimating started making a pretty dramatic difference. All right, let's minimize the Iris Nebula and have a closer look at the Ghost data. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use Star Exterminator and remove the stars, and then we're going to open up the starless image in Photoshop and really analyze it. All right, this will take a few minutes. I'll see you when it's done. All right, we're done. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. Turn the auto stretch off on the stars image, minimize that. Actually, let's go ahead and label it stars for later. We'll call this one starless. Turn the auto stretch off on that as well. I'm going to save it and we're going to open it up in Photoshop. All right, here we go. We got it opened up in Photoshop, and what we're looking for is the point where you cannot stretch this anymore. There is 8 hours worth of data in here, so I should be able to get a nice, clean, bright image, but these older DSLRs are extremely noisy, and even with dark frames, there's a point where you cannot stretch this any further without completely destroying the image, and we're going to see where that is. Just going to start stretching with levels. And curves. All right, right here is the point where it's starting to look very noisy, but I haven't done any noise reduction yet. So I'm just gonna go ahead and run an instance of Noise Exterminator real quick. All right, that's looking a lot cleaner. Still not the sharpest image in the world. Don't really like that either. I don't know if it's the telescope or the focus or what, but it's just a little soft. And another problem I'm seeing right here is where these two bright stars were, and that's a big problem with this old camera. Anytime I try to shoot something with a very bright star or a group of stars, I end up with something like this. I've tried newer cameras and I don't have that problem. It's very specific to this older camera. I had the same problem with the Witch Head this time last year. Okay, generally this is probably where I would stop. Stretching it any more past this is gonna create some problems, but I just wanna show you how much data is actually still in there because I did get 8 hours worth. Pull up curves, another big stretch here. Levels, bring in the shadows. So look at all that dust and all that stuff in there, but the problem I'm seeing now is all these splotchy colors everywhere. I'm seeing some blues, some greens, some purples, and there's not really an easy way to get rid of that. I can try going up to filter, camera raw filter, going to detail and getting rid of color noise reduction, and doing a little bit of noise reduction. I got rid of it a little bit, but no, I'm still seeing a lot of purple in here. I mean, I don't really know what to do about it. Let's go to color mixer and bring down, I don't know what that sound was. Bring down the purples and magentas a little bit. It's just not really helping. This is where I would call the image overcooked. All I'm doing is exaggerating this flaw right here and bringing out all this color noise that I just can't get rid of. This image kind of looks okay at the moment on my computer screen, but I guarantee you, I put this on my phone or blow it up on my TV or something, it's going to look awful. So it's best that I don't quite stretch it this far and leave it a little darker. It might seem more mysterious that way anyway. Recently, I had the privilege to process a photo of this same region of space, but taken with somebody's dedicated, cooled astronomy camera. And they only had 4 hours on it, and let me just say, that was such a pleasure compared to this. That data just came right out. There was hardly any noise. I'm really sold on getting a cooled astronomy camera now. It's coming. Well guys, thank you so much for sticking around all the way to the end. It's been a very interesting few weeks. Hope you all have a great Halloween. If you like the video, please leave me a like. Subscribe to the channel. I got some more stuff coming up. I just hit 20,000 subscribers. I forgot about that. Oh my gosh, it's a milestone. This is amazing. And it's all because of you. Thank you so much. If you want to support this channel even further, you can leave a super like. I'll be starting a Patreon in the next few weeks. I hope you guys get into that as well. But for now, I'm going to get out of here. So, all right, everybody. As always, stay spacey. Clear skies. Watch out for snakes. See you next time.